Welcome to Oh Brother, a podcast of three brothers trying to figure it all out, with your hosts Brandon, Colin, and Aaron. On this week's show, freaking Lutie. Hello.
Hey.
What is up?
Well, Snowmageddon 2021. That's what's up.
Why is it so bad? Why does it have to be so bad?
Man, it's I measured this morning.
Yeah.
I have at least in the yard, like close to the door. So I don't know. It might have been blown. So this could be slight drifting. There's at least 11 inches of snow in my front yard.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And that was me just taking my tape measure and shoving it in the snow. Oh,
sure.
It could be a little more. I might not have gotten all the way through the grass. I couldn't really tell.
You know.
At that point.
Yikers.
We have at least 11.
Huh.
Yeah. So, I haven't been to work in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I mean, I don't care, but like, it's
yeah, I know. The kids have been out of school for a really long time.
Yeah, because last week it was just too icy.
Yeah.
Because every day it would just drizzle enough.
Yeah.
That it would just be frozen. Like the roads were frozen solid. So we couldn't go. And then like the temperature never got above freezing. And then this last weekend, holy cannoli, the temperature like just decided to go away altogether.
Yeah.
And so like earlier this week, I guess like Monday, Tuesday, we had a wind chill of negative 23.
Yeah.
Fahrenheit.
Yep.
I don't know what that is Celsius, international listeners. I'll look that up in a second, but holy cannoli, that was
scare them. No. I know. We didn't get as much snow as you all did. I think we ended up closer to like 8-ish.
8.
Right. Which is still like an insane amount of snow.
Yeah.
Got snow all day today. We got snow all day today. Insane.
Yeah, it snowed again last night here.
Yeah, but we were down to negative 30 with the wind chill.
Whoa!
Well,
I just did a calculation on my phone here. Negative 23 degrees Fahrenheit is negative 30 Celsius.
Okay, well,
there you go.
It's just insane.
And negative 30 Celsius is negative 30 Fahrenheit is negative 34. Getting close to that convergence point temperature of negative 40. Look at that. But it's the same.
Hooray.
Yeah.
So,
question mark?
Yeah. So it's been a bit fraught. I'm really not looking forward to the utility bill this month.
Yeah.
Oh well. That or freeze, I guess.
It's true.
But yeah.
Yeah, because we have to turn ours because we have a heat pump, right? And so like,
oh yeah,
when it normally it's like fine, whatever. When it gets really cold, you can't. It won't heat the air because you have to condense that air down, right? And when it's so cold, it won't compress, and you can't get heat out of it. The heat exchange doesn't work properly, so you have to switch over to like the electric emergency heat thing. So it's just like 100% electric power, which isn't great, but you know. That'd be all right.
Yeah. Yeah. Aaron, how cold has it been over where you are?
Well, it was about 1 degree yesterday, and then today it was in like 18.
Oh yeah, today it was like 19. It was so hot.
But like the sun was out, and so that kind of helped. Right now it's like 24, but I don't really believe that. So it's been a nice little off and on. I mean, it snowed yesterday, like a lot. And so we got a lot of the stuff melted, but then that kind of refroze. And so kind of been a little hit and miss. We have at least 3 or 4 inches, I think, maybe more. I haven't really been paying attention to like how much we've been getting. But when I go outside with low socks on or low shoes, I always immediately regret it. So, anything. But other than that, I mean, like, the highways are relatively clear-ish, like now, but it definitely was not like that yesterday. And so they pulled pretty high overtime in regards to like getting stuff cleared or not.
Here, I heard that the highways are fine. Every other road is completely awful.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah, the back roads, which thankfully is most of the area that I cover is back roads. So work has been a little bit more perilous of trying to navigate and get to where we need to go. If it's not on the highway, you're ready. Like, that doesn't help anything. It's like, well, is it close to the highway? No. Well, I can't go.
Well,
some of my colleagues are still snowed in, so that kind of paints a picture of how kind of sporadic it has been. Please.
Yeah, that's always the biggest factor for us with canceling school, right? Is the highway's fine, but nobody lives on the highway,
right?
And so. Like,
do you a whole lot of good.
Yeah, some
interstate commerce
around here are like perilous in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
When it's like this weather, like it's just no way you're getting it. You can't drive down. So
yeah,
it's impossible. But yeah, so that's the thing. I did have a small flashback this week while I was looking at school closings. I also noticed that Licking was out of school all week, so congratulations, Licking.
Hey!
Oh man, I got
that school continuously just waiting to see. We're gonna be not.
It's true. So, listeners, we went to school at Logan, Rogersville. So Licking was almost all. I'm still not entirely sure where Licking even is. I look it up every once in a while, but I can't remember. It's way over in Texas County.
Yeah,
like it's in the northern half of Texas County. I don't even know what. It's like way far away. Anyway, when we were kids, we watched the names of the schools would scroll across on the bottom of the television to tell you what schools were closed. Right. They didn't have automated calling or anything like that, so we just had to watch the news. And it was painful because there's a lot of schools in our area, so
yeah,
to wait forever. And L is very far down the list, and so it was. I always remember waiting to see Licking because Logan Rogersville would be next. That's the one you had to wait for.
Yep.
Is it there? And the worst feeling in the world whenever it said Licking, Lutie. No. Full disclosure, I also have no idea where Lutie is. No clue. So I
don't need to bring up any old beefs here of any rivalries on air.
Yeah, I don't know where town is. I have no clue. I just know I saw it on the news all the time.
Yeah,
and was like sad when it was like, no, we gotta go now. So that was my flashback for the week. So I literally have done not much else. I've just been sitting here. Like last week we could get out. We went and got groceries and stuff. We, got some takeout because the roads in here in town where we live are fine. It's like whatever. When it was icy. But like the side roads were, perilous. And so we got a little bit last week. Got groceries for us and Susan's mom. It was her birthday last week, so celebrated that. But yeah, this week was like, well, staying at home some more.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Extra groceries for lunchtime, you know.
Yeah, we were supposed to have Monday off anyway. So we had a 4-day weekend scheduled ahead because we got Friday off and Monday off.
Yeah.
And then the state of Missouri closed down on Tuesday. They were like, peace out, everyone stay home. So I was like, woohoo, 5-day weekend.
Yeah, that's the crazy part, how widespread it is, right? Normally it's like just an area, you know, like a certain region's like got a bunch of snow, but this time it's like, nope, it's everywhere.
Well,
sorry.
At one point, 74% of the entire United States had either ice or snow on the ground.
Whoa, really?
Yes. 74% of the U.S. was covered. And I'm still trying to hunt this down as far as whether it's factual, but I'm pretty sure that at one point over the weekend, someplace in Iowa was the coldest place on Earth.
That might be true. Oftentimes, the coldest place in North America is Minnesota.
Yeah.
So, like, International Falls, Minnesota is like one of the coldest places in North America.
Right. Yeah. So, but I think it dipped just briefly enough, and things were else, orchestrated around the rest of the globe that someplace in Iowa was the coldest place on Earth for a hot second.
Wow. Did you see the pictures of snow at Galveston?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. That's not where snow goes. That's a beach, people. No. Galveston, Texas is like, it's hot there. All the time.
Yeah. I was seeing pictures of just massive amounts of cold shocked fish along the bays.
Oh, yeah.
These estuaries. I mean,
I know there's lots of sea turtle rescue happening in places around there, too.
Thousands of these fish gone. And then people in Dallas were posting pictures of like pipes would burst in a wall and then it would start dripping. But then, like, I don't know if you've seen the ceiling fan with 3-foot icicles hanging off of it.
I did not see that. Oh dear.
Inside, right? Inside. But they didn't have power. Things burst, and then there was water flooding everywhere.
Yeah.
And they had that, or the ice covered toilets that had started to back up and ice over, and insane.
That's crazy. Yeah, even parts of like northern Mexico, it was snowing down by like Corpus Christi.
Yeah,
and like down on the border,
those
like the northern part of Mexico was snowing. Like that's a desert, man.
Yeah.
That doesn't.
that is a place of Texas, is a part of the country that doesn't even understand what the word snow means, right?
Yeah. Well, Texas in general doesn't understand what snow means.
No.
So like whenever they have this much snow, it's just literally impossible, right? It's like, well, clearly because they're all out of power. Because I've been reading about that fiasco of like nobody seemed to have bothered to plan for the possibility of cold weather in Texas. And so their power grid is not able to handle a massive upsurge in like heating.
Yeah. Well,
and a lot of places don't even have heat really anyway.
No.
Because like you don't need heat in Texas. It's usually plenty hot enough.
Yeah.
Why bother? Right?
Yeah. So like their power is not capable of handling that surge for cold because they were like, nah, we don't need it. It's like
they didn't inflate their gas pipes and control those valves. They didn't pay for like the auto defrost feature on all of their windmills because they're like, we don't. These are literally the desert. We're not going to need anything there.
Yeah, well, that's crazy enough as it is, but that wasn't like a big part of the power drain. They're playing that up, right? Being like natural, renewable, burn coal, baby. Like, guys, you get most of your power from natural gas.
Right. Like 70%.
Stop lying.
But you're right.
Like
just
Texas, we know yours comes from natural gas. Texas, you can't fool us. We see the oil belts; they're right there. You can just. They're not hiding.
You put them on all of your merchandise too. I don't know what you're talking about.
But the wind turbine freezing, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the fact that they were just like, nah, it'll never be cold here. Well, turns out.
Shocker.
Yeah. I mean, so that's been pretty nuts. So yeah, I've been hanging out, watching a lot of YouTube, stuff, reading. I finished several books. Two of which I've just been like, I had almost finished with them. I'd been reading them for school, and for class, stuff that I teach is like subject matter stuff. So they're like reference material, and I had read basically past the part where I teach it in class, and then there's like the extra stuff at the end. And so I just stopped reading. So I was like, well, I guess I'll finish these and take them to school and put them on my bookshelf and start reading something else. Been reading The War That Ended Peace, The Journey to 1914. Very interesting. Good stuff.
Yeah. Interesting. What was good about it?
Well, I'm not done with it yet, but it goes into detail about a lot of the. I mean, I'm almost done with it. I haven't done anything to do this week. So it goes into a lot more detail about kind of the climate in Europe before the First World War, right? So it goes into a lot more detail about that stuff. People are just like, oh yeah, Austria, Hungary, and Russia didn't trust each other. That's what you hear in like history class, right? That's it. So yeah,
right.
So there's a lot of interesting stuff about like why, what was going on, like kind of the mindset of just people at that time. Because you hear, you kind of know, I knew some of that, but kind of like just a very brief overview stuff. So it goes into a lot more detail about that kind of thing. And then a lot of detail about like really weird stuff that like the Morocco thing, right? So like,
oh yeah,
Morocco was a sultanate, and they were hanging out, and they were like, "We're independent," but Europe at the time was like, "No, that you can't be independent outside of Europe. Ha silly! You have to deal with us." But then which country would you deal with? That was the whole thing. So France was like, "No, Morocco is our friend," and Germany was like, "No, we'll be friends." And so Kaiser Wilhelm just sort of like showed up in Morocco one day, like, "Surprise! Here I am to visit," and that caused a big kerfuffle. Right, that didn't go well. He was all like telling France, "No, everything's fine. We're not trying to take Morocco away from your sphere of influence." And he just like shows up to hang out with the Sultan one day, like out of the blue, without telling anybody. Like, wait, what?
There's a book that I have somewhere that talks a lot about how, just how like he was so involved, and he'd be like, "I want to be friends. Oh, you people don't want to be friends with me? I'll just show up anyway." And then like how kind of like how paranoid he was of how like other people thought of him and like other countries.
Yeah, man, he's a wild character. He is something else. Just some of the stuff like this book goes in. I have another one too somewhere. So I've read about him before, but like this one, it kind of reinforces that some of the stuff that because I haven't read about it in a while, so I forgot some of it. Some of it's new. Like, man, he's just like erratic. He doesn't listen to anybody. He's just like, no, it's fine. Crazy. He was a crazy person. So, yeah, he doesn't help a lot of things. Yeah, and the fact, like Aaron was saying, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'll be your buddy," and he'd be like, psst, psst, "Hey, I don't like that guy. We're gonna show him how much I don't like him." You know what I mean? Very like duplicitous. Like, sure. Put on this big show about how being grand, and then be like, I hate that guy. Like, we're not going to talk to him anymore. He hurt my feelings, man. Like, wait, what?
Yay, petty.
Yes, a little bit. So that's, I got to the part in the book about like the whole Balkans thing, right? So the whole like, we're at the part where it's kind of the Ottoman Empire is declining, nationalism sweeping the Balkan Peninsula. So all the like Serbians are like, yes, we should form our country, and like Greece and Montenegro and all these people, Albania, and then they all didn't like each other, and were then they were trying to figure out who they should side with. Well, we should side with Russia, or we should side with Austria.
Right.
And Austria and Russia were fighting over who they wanted to side with him. It was like a really bad picking teams in gym class type situation happening.
Nobody likes.
No. No. And then like Romania and the whole Austria had Transylvania, and they're like, that's, the whole, basically that I read one time that a country always wants its borders to be, it thinks its natural borders are the largest extent to which that country has ever been. Right? And this is where the fighting happens.
Yeah.
Right. This is why a lot of fighting in Europe happened, right? So people would be like, well, that's our land. Well, that's our, because at one point in history it had been. And then at another point in history, it hadn't been again.
It was not.
And even though these points in history could be separated by 500 years, they were very grumpy about it still.
Well,
so like, they get all mad. And yeah. And so, they're like, oh, that whole like, oh, that's traditionally our land. Like, okay, win. Like, whatever. It's not for me to say because I don't know, So that's the whole thing. So yeah, it's really interesting. Lots of good detail and kind of interesting stuff. And like I said, I haven't had anything else to do today, really, or this week. So been watching video game stuff, playing guitars, watching reruns of the Grand Tour.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah. Good.
Trying to find the specials because of the ones I want to watch. I don't want to watch the other ones. I don't like them as well. I want to watch the big, long ones.
I was trying to remember.
And I can't remember which one of them are all the time. So I'm like, is this? Do I want to? No. Do I want to?
I don't have them memorized yet.
Yeah.
There was one. Oh, what was I was trying to remember this yesterday. My favorite non-special Grand Tour. And I was having the hardest time coming up with this because I don't remember them very well.
And the specials are far and away the best part.
Oh man.
So like,
it was just insane.
Especially the first season. It's not really very, I didn't really like the first one. It's not very good. It's not as good as the rest of them.
No, they were, I will go to my deaths here of that first season. They were coming out this whiplash of having come out from underneath the constraints of both the financial and the time and the politics of the BBC.
Oh yeah, it's very rigid BBC.
Free reign to just go.
Yeah, so they were a little nuts.
They just went insane.
Yeah. Have you watched? Did I tell you about the Great Escapists? Did we talk about that?
No.
I tell you, I watched this as well on Amazon. The Great Escapists is a show hosted by Tori Belleci formerly of MythBusters, and Richard Hammond, in which they are stranded on a desert island and just sort of like engineer things together. And so it's pretty. It's very tongue in cheek, right? It's very tongue in cheek. Like, yes, we totally built all this by ourselves right now. Well, look at all the stuff, right? But like, they do a bunch of like this crazy like engineering stuff, and it does work eventually. But they clearly aren't doing it all alone. But like, the whole premise is we're stranded on a desert island. It's funny. It's really goofy. My only complaint is they don't really go too much. They don't do as much engineering stuff as like MythBusters would have, which makes me a little sad. But it is Tori and Richard doing ridiculous things. So that's good. So I enjoyed that as well.
Interesting. The last Grand Tour special, last Grand Tour episode that was released, had that very same feeling, right? Of where they were on the beach, building
the pirate one. Yeah.
The pirate one, right? They were building the cabana, or with Richard cooking the fish in the pot or in the sand.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I wonder if those were filmed around the same time.
They might have been, but they're kind of it kind of has that feel. But they do build this like giant Swiss Family Robinson treehouse thing. They power it with a water wheel, right? Because they like rip the alternator out of the boat and they like rig it up to this giant water wheel and they power it. They talk about like how Richard blew all the fuses. He like magnetized the thing because he turned all of his fans on because he was too hot. And so they had to build a bigger water wheel. All this stuff. Jeez. But it's really funny. It's just silly, a lot of it. And so I enjoyed watching it and just like hanging out and not. So you should check that out if you want to watch some silliness. Right. It's very weird too because I also have been watching. I have like one episode left. So I have no definitive answer on this. But I have also been watching The Wilds on Amazon, which is like, it's like much more serious. It's like this group of girls is on a plane and it crashes on a desert island. Oh. And they have to like live there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like really serious and they deal with like all these really interesting issues. And then I watched The Great Escapists, which is like ridiculous.
Like, okay, it's fine. Little whiplash between those two. It's all good.
Yeah, The Wilds is fine. I feel like, I haven't finished it. I have like one episode left. Because it's one of those things where like nothing ever gets better, so you kind of get like, like I gotta watch another one. Like this is all like dour and sad and like heavy, right? I feel like this show was written by two people. Because there's like the part where it's like the girls interacting, and then the part where it's like it kind of goes into like each one of their kind of their history a little bit and kind of like their backstory. You get to see glimpses of them from their previous life and how that is affecting how they deal with being on the island, why it's a struggle for some, and the kind of thing that everybody's struggling with. That part is really good. And it's really well done. And the actresses are like amazing. And then there's this other part where there's like the subplot about like how they got to the island and like all the real goings on that's happening. Right. And it's less good. And it definitely feels like two people wrote this and like just mashed it together. And whoever wrote the other stuff, I feel like they watched like Lost and like like a whole bunch as like their favorite show. Yeah. And so like almost, actually every single time there's been like a reveal, they play it up like, oh my gosh, I bet you didn't see that coming. And I'm like, what? Yes.
Totally did.
Where did you guys actually?
Yeah, the guys, I kind of figured that out already. What are you talking about? And then there's some other stuff that just like they try to build it up, like, oh my gosh, isn't this crazy? And you're like, sure, whatever. Like this person's kind of nuts, and like there's a couple times where they like all of a sudden in like the last couple episodes, like this lady's motivations come out, and you're like, what? What? Where the heck did that come from?
Oh gosh,
literally. Out of left field, like what?
Yeah, mixed matched with the actual character, and all of a sudden they're supposed to have these feelings or these emotions or these motivations.
Yeah, it's the motivations part, and it's like, just like,
but you didn't give me that character.
All right, that's cool. And I feel like it's fine. Again, I think like I had no problem with the motivation. Whatever, I don't care. But like the fact that you held on to it to like 3 episodes from the end, trying to make it like a big crazy reveal, kind of makes me like not care about it. So like, we'll only have 1 episode left, so like not really invested in this, and I don't like this person anyway because it takes away from the interesting part of the show. So I don't. So it's very mixed for me. I like it, but also like the other half, like the stuff that's not about the girls on the island. I'm like, I don't like this part. This is not. This is way less good. And again, there's a couple things where you could tell that somebody was really proud of themselves for coming up with that.
Oh no!
But it's like, oh, buddy, that's precious that you thought that
Didn't
was
quite
going to
have
be
the
like.
payoff they were hoping.
And again, I also am aware. I am saying all of this knowing I am probably not the target demographic for this show about high school girls trapped on an island. I understand this.
I was going to say it, but
show is probably not for me. Right? I just saw Trapped on Desert Island and I was like, I'll watch that. I like things like that, right? So, knowing that, again, show not written for me exactly.
Yeah.
I accept that part. So that's my caveat with this mini review here is I know that I am not the demographic.
I was not supposed to like it. And you know what? It's not right.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's just like some of the parts are like, okay, well, I guess that's clever if you are 13, maybe. But like, that's what I feel sometimes. Like,
I mean, do you feel like they're playing the 13-year-old characters as too adult?
No, because a lot of them are like 17, 18.
Okay.
Right? So, like, that's fine. They're like 17, 18-year-old girls. So, some of them, they're playing like, they're realistically too adult for being 17, right? You know what I mean? Like, some of them have that whole deal. And again, I think the diversity of the cast and like how, like, when you get to see the different family backgrounds that they come from is very interesting. Right? And it's done, that part's written really well. So you can see how like their background influences the character they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That part is really good. Like character development is really good. The overall story development, kind of not good. But, you have to have like you can't just have a straightforward survival story. You got to have like a whole thing with, subplots and like secret reasons and blah, blah, blah. Like, right. One of the, I won't spoil too much, but like one of them is like, oh, they're not on the island by accident. And you're kind of like, yeah, duh. What? Come on. What are you talking about?
Oh, no.
This is very obvious. That's like a held up reveal. Like, it was planned by someone. You're like, yeah, I know. And you find out like why. You're like, well, that's weird. Okay, whatever. Like, it's not, So there's a couple of moments like that where I've been watching it and gone, oh, someone thought that was going to be like a big thing.
And that's always disappointing too, whenever you get to those points where it's like, oh, I can overlook some of these faults or some of these weaknesses in this, but you really built this one point up a lot. And now it really I don't know, it takes me out of the show, out of the movie at that point, because all of a sudden like the reality is stripped away, or you're like,
well, and a lot of it I think comes down to timing. Sure. Right? Because like I feel like one of the things, right, is that the fact that they held on to it for so long, like by the time they got around to revealing it, I had already figured it out like a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right. But if they would have done it too early, it would have been the opposite. It would have been like, I wouldn't have had any sort of investment. I would have been like, okay, so what? So there is an issue of timing that is hard to do, right? Like, you want to hold off for as long as possible, but then like, also you can't let your whole entire audience figure it out before you reveal it. Cause then it's like not a reveal. It's like, okay. Cool. Right. We'll call that the M. Night problem, right? Because that's what his movie started suffering from that after a while.
He's so nice. Man, I like most of his movies. I don't know. I like some of his movies.
I heard the most recent one was actually not bad. I haven't seen it, so I have no comment on that one.
Okay.
Can't remember what it's called. But like he came out with one not too long ago that I heard was better. But yes, I agree. I feel like he fell into that problem of like, I'm the twist guy. Right. And so after a while, some of his movies are like, yeah, we know. We figured that out already. What are you doing? Because you're expecting it, so it's not exciting anymore.
Yeah. It's like you can do it once, but after that, not really.
Yeah, it'd be way hilarious if like some of them didn't have a twist at all. It was just like, boom. What's up? Oh yeah, he's the guy that did that Split movie. I heard that. Susan said that one was really good. Right.
I haven't seen that one.
I haven't either. She saw it. And then that Glass, which is like another good movie. I heard. I didn't see that one either. But it is connected to Unbreakable, which I do like.
Yes.
That's a good one. So yeah, I think the first from this list, the first three, Sixth Sense, that was the big one. Right. They're like, oh my gosh, what? And then like Unbreakable's pretty good. Signs was not bad. And then by the time I got to The Village, I was like, yeah, I don't like this movie. Also, I have a distinct memory of being in the theater with all my friends. And we were like one of the only people in there watching it. It was like in mid-afternoon because it was a cheap movie, obviously. So that's when we went to see. And we were talking, and we're like, dude, this is totally what's happening. And boom, that's what it was. So I soured on that movie because I figured it out like over halfway, like not even halfway through. Like, yeah. So that kind of put me off. I was like, yeah, it's not very interesting because we figured it out. So, blah.
Yeah. And what's frustrating, I don't know, movies like that for me tend to have a very low rewatch value.
Oh, that's for sure.
Right. And I do like to watch I do tend to rewatch movies that I like a lot. And so I actually did like The Village for all of its corniness and over.
I like The Village.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
But I can't watch it again because there's no point to.
Mm-hmm.
There's just
that's true. Well, you have a Mac. You can watch it like one more time, right? Because you watch it with different eyes when you know what's going on. But like a movie like that where like the twist is the deal.
Yeah,
you don't really want to watch it because the rest of it is not super interesting once you figure out what's happening, right? Because like Adrian Brody's fine, that girl's fine. The aesthetics are kind of cool.
Yeah.
But like, meh. Like,
yeah. After that, I mean, you take away those aspects, and you're just left with, like you said, like a meh movie. And when it's all hinged on one or two big reveals, when you know those are coming, it's like, okay, well, and I can appreciate it for other aspects. You know, some of the acting is fine.
Yeah,
I like the. I love
cinematography's fine. You know,
I love
it's good.
The aesthetics of the whole.
The aesthetics
thing.
Are good.
But beyond that, like, okay, well, yeah,
yeah, I agree.
It's all, like, all you can do, right?
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, I watched it anyway.
Checked.
Yeah.
That is a good point you bring up, though, about like the rewatchability, because that is something that's like, I don't know, I do find myself drawn to movies that you can watch again, even though, yeah, there are some that I don't, because it's like, okay, well, yeah, that was fine, it was good, it was interesting, but I don't need to see it again, right? There are certain things sometimes where it's just like, oh, it's so good, I'm just going to watch it over and over. And I don't always know what those things are. So do you have like certain things that stand out to you that make it rewatchable? Like, because, I'm probably not going to watch, I watched that, I don't remember, the Whitey Bulger movie with Johnny Depp, right? That movie's pretty good. Probably not going to watch it again. I watched it once. I was like, yeah, it's a good movie. Okay. That's it. Or is there something like, I don't know, this week we've also been watching like Harry Potter. I'm gonna watch those again. I like those. Those are fine. So like, I don't know. Is there something for you that stands out to make something rewatchable like that?
Ooh, that's a really good. I mean, I immediately connect with. I think I'm trying to think of the things that I watch the most often. I'm going to have to think about that. Aaron, do you have any thoughts while I mull this over?
So things for me, like for rewatchability, like it still has to capture that sense of like, the sense of wonder. For me, which is kind of a weird thing to say. Like I could sit and watch like a Harry Potter marathon, like a weekend, and then the next weekend I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I'm ready to watch it. Some of those kind of classics of like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, for instance, even though a lot of people kind of, don't really like the newer ones. I still like Star Wars. I mean, like those classics for sure. But then there's even though I know what's going to happen, I think that's still kind of, the whole fun to it. If that makes any sense. I know this is going to happen, but still like a really cool part, and this is why I watch it. There's some movies where I got to think of an example, and I might let Colin talk so I can think of a legitimate movie that I've done this for, where it's like I can watch it and then I'm good for like a few months to a year, and then it comes back beyond again. Like, oh, I can watch that again. And then there's movies that I'm like, I've seen that once, like, nah, I'm good. I can't put like a finger on what exactly there is that like causes me to be like, oh yeah, I can watch this again, or oh well, I might as well wait. But there's something about certain movies, for me anyways, that I can be like, I gotta watch this again, or this movie, it's a classic, or something of along the lines of, well, yeah, I just like this movie because I haven't seen it in so long. Back to the Future 3 was one of them. I haven't seen this movie in so long, but it's so good. And even though I know what happens, it got Marty McFly, and there's Marty and doing Marty things, and they're in the Old West. To me, that is like the coolest thing about it. So that's one of those movies I can watch at any time and still just be, happy that I watched it when I was a little kid, watching it again as an adult. So movies like that, like I'm fine with. And then there's, I can't even think of another movie that.
So one aspect is probably you have some sort of connection to it from the past.
Yeah, like that's a really big
like
thing.
A nostalgic kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah, and then like some of those, especially those Lord of the Rings movies. We watched them with Mimi, and so that's got that sentimental value. And like, she took us to these when we were little, and so therefore it's still really that movie that we hold dear, or something like that. But there's still kind of that. This is my movie growing up, but I can like there's just cool parts of movies that I can watch like over and over again and be completely fine with, even though I watched it like 50 times already. The one scene in Star Wars movie, and the newer one, supposed to come out like right before A New Hope. I wonder what that's called.
Yeah, that's one I didn't watch actually. I think I missed the Rogue One. That one?
Yeah, Rogue One. Like,
I just missed it somehow. I haven't seen it.
A lot of people feel like, oh yeah, it's not that good a movie. But there's a scene with Darth Vader in it, and it is just so nerd fest to me that I could sit and watch it like again. Be like, this is fine. I'm fine. I'm having fun. Because it's just a cool moment for me to relive, and then one day down the road, if or when I have kids, I can go, hey, it's going to be hard for me because I probably want to talk the whole time. Okay. Hey, those parts are really cool. So that's going to be difficult. Yeah. But having those kind of special moments for me, whenever I get older, with either my kids or just people that have seen movies now, like growing up with you two, how many times did we watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail? Like,
you're welcome, by the way, for that.
Yeah. So I mean, by the time I got to like high school, when like we were watching it in school, like I could just sit there, not pay attention to the movie, and just I could sit there on my phone, like reading a book or something, and be like, "Oh, where's the rabbit?" And just like quote the entire movie, just on a whim. And so things like that to me, I find special, and it's quirky, but it's something that hey, I can say this entire movie for no reason whatsoever, just because my brothers we would be in the basement and be like, "Oh, somebody put on the Holy Grail," and so I don't know. Little things like that are special.
I'm thinking through the list of movies that I can watch over and over and over and over and over again. And I don't know if this is going to perfectly encapsulate my thought with what makes movies rewatchable for me. I think they fall on two ends of the spectrum of very large world or very small and intimate one. And I think two examples for this are like the movie Spirited Away. That movie, that world is basically infinite for all intents and purposes. Right? You have no idea, and it has moments where the world is so vast, but also like has these moments that are punctuated by very real like darkness and pain and hurt at a very personal level. And so that's very captivating to me. And then I think of kind of the inverse of that as something like Shawshank Redemption, which I do think gets overhyped a lot as far as like how wonderful of a movie it is, but it is immeasurably rewatchable. And I think that is because it's very small scale. I know there are smaller scale movies or whatever, but the personal relations between these people, like they're very relatable. You can imagine people like that in your life or that exist in the world. And so each one of these kind of has elements, I think, that you can connect with on an emotional level or an experiential level that you can. I think that has to come down to part of the writing, right? And for me, a lot of that's dialogue of when people in movies don't talk the way normal people talk.
That's true. It's very hard to connect with that particular story thing, right?
Like I not only do I not like the movie, but B, I can't rewatch it because who talks like? And I know that some writers and directors have weird affectations where they try and write differently or they try and write melodically for people to talk in different aspects, but in that other way of going, when Andy Dufresne is going through this process and you like the way he's acted by Tim Robbins is just you can connect with every aspect that he is experiencing on a personal level. And then when you're looking at Spirited Away, as she's going through this, like, again, it's like childlike wonder of experiencing new things and this world that just seems to go on and on forever. I don't know why my brain was like, well, either very, very large worlds or very small, intimate worlds. I tend to find I can rewatch all the time. The small worlds have to be done exceedingly well because the level of detail that you can get down to, I think, can, if you miss it, you're gonna. And again, Miyazaki's great at the small world. Just watching how kids put on shoes, right? How he studied that.
I mean, you're like Totoro, right?
Or like Totoro, right? Like that's a pretty, I love that kind of detail and the realism in kind of that in those fictional universes.
Interesting.
That is another aspect that I never fully understood, especially when I was younger, was kind of the atmosphere, the environment, the world that was created by, whatever production. Either it be large scale of something like the Star Wars universe, or just how vast and how endless possibilities there are, or it being a little kid, but being like, wow, I would love to live here, and then getting older and understanding how horrible it would possibly be to live in some of those places. Well, I don't know if everyone's there, but like that's just another worldly aspect that I never took account of. Like, oh, this is a whole new world that I'm just fascinated with. That kind of goes back that we talked a long time ago about video games. I was so fascinated with the Halo universe, and the science fiction, the sci-fi behind it, the technology, the history and the lore behind everything. And I deeply enjoy movies that bring that aspect. Maybe not Halo itself. It's a really cool movie out there. Authors, writers get their thing. But like how much time people put into like movies, films, like, and not just creating some little blank canvas, be like, oh, boom, here's a movie. But like the people that build the lore behind it. And it's like some of those movies that just fall flat on their face, like the World of Warcraft movie that came out. Like,
I didn't hear great things about
cool, but it's just like it did nothing. Like you built no, like, oh, there's the guy that played in Vikings. Oh, he's wearing armor. Oh, he's got a sword, and that was the main selling. And so some of those movies that build on a world in itself, that there you can look into the backstory, or it creates the backstory, and it just brings you more into the history, the lore, whatever. I find movies like that to be more appealing and not just kind of on the surface kind of meh project, where there's actually depth behind it, there's meaning behind it. And so, I mean, some of those history pieces, even though some of them aren't historically accurate, there's movies out there that people visit those places that these movies took, or the historical places took place at, and how people the movie Gettysburg, 19 something, it has
Broderick.
No, that's Glory.
Glory. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll think of. I have it.
Gettysburg's old, right? It's an old one.
It is very old. That movie was shot at Gettysburg. Like, they went to like the National History Society. Is like, hey, can we shoot a film here? And they're like, sure. And then, how about 1993? That's not too bad. That's the one.
Was it? I thought it was older than that.
Yeah. Oh, it's got Tom Berenger, Martin Sheen. Yeah, he played Robert E. Lee. Oh wow, it's got a lot of wow. But like movie like that it wasn't just made for big action blockbuster of the summer. It was made for purpose to show like, yeah, war was terrible and it is terrible, but this is what the United States went through, and there was like actual legitimate, purpose behind it of not just to make a film to sell money, but to show history of how like terrible it was in certain aspects. And so films like that, like I could probably sit and watch Gettysburg like maybe like once a month, and I'd still be. It's a long movie, and there's been times where I put it on in the background, feel like, oh, I'm just gonna watch this and time myself to work, and then like 6 hours later, I'm like, I'm still watching this movie. So there's some of that struggle behind it. But
I think my attention span might not be able to handle it.
No, it's terrible. To me, like that film, it's it's a rarity, and that's why people like the movie Waterloo. Granted, it's another big like 1970s or 1980s historical film, or the movie A Bridge Too Far. Again, another 6-hour movie, but the time and effort that was put into it to create, not just a big, Michael Bay shoot bang bang kind of film, but to actually represent, hey, this is history. This is what we went through.
Right.
Yeah, here's Michael Caine. Go. Yeah. So,
I mean, Michael Caine always helps. To be honest.
Yes, I just enjoy movies like that. That's just me. I guess that kind of goes to another thing that I thoroughly enjoy about the revalue or rewatchability of movies is because of that. So.
Interesting. I definitely agree that a lot of it has to do with like the world aspect, right? Because I can forgive a lot of things if the world where things are happening is interesting.
Sure.
Right? Like, I am all about that. I'm a sucker for that. And I forgive a lot in a lot of media where like a lot of people, read online, there's a lot of, these people are like, oh, I can't believe that. That's just so terrible. Blah. Like, I like it because the world is interesting, it's believable, and it sparks my imagination in some way. Right.
Yeah.
Then I'm in. I can forgive a lot of like little weird things if the world is interesting enough. Right. Like I can buy into that. But I think also some of it's very like, for me, I feel like it's almost like partially genre specific because like there are certain movies that I know are like good, but I don't want to watch them over and over again.
Yeah.
Because they're like really like heavy dramas or something, right? Like, I don't know, like A Streetcar Named Desire is a great movie. Do I want to watch a movie a whole bunch of times? No, I don't. No. Because it's like, you want to see the thing. There's one part that there's a couple of the parts are pretty good, but I don't want to watch that movie like over and over again. So there has to be some kind, like the pace. Again, for me, I think part of it's like the pacing has to be enough to keep me interested, because I don't want to sit through a movie that's like sloggy, right? And like,
yeah.
Or like, so I think part of it has to be that, and I do agree with Aaron, there is a certain part, there are some of the movies on my thing that are like, I do have some memory of watching them when I was younger and liking them for some reason. And so like, I just still like them.
Sure.
Like they just sort of stay with you in that regard. But I think part of it, like, especially for the ones that I've watched as I've been older, the world building has to have something interesting. And then like, there just has to be something that grabbed me when I was watching it. And it's not always an obvious thing, right? Sometimes there's like some like Colin was talking about, the dialogue is interesting, or like there's an action sequence that's like really cool, but something has grabbed me and grabbed my attention enough that I like latch onto that, and like that is my favorite part of the movie. And I'll watch the whole movie just for that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is the writing. Like, is it written well, right? Because that's what sort of, it's the difference between Die Hard and Die Hard 2. Right? Like, I want to watch one of those movies.
Yeah.
And not necessarily
the other one.
I don't, so like, they're fine. But like, yeah, there's got to be something. But I think the world, just like the aspect, the environment, that world building characteristic is really important for me.
Yeah.
And I will definitely forgive a lot in like all media, books, video games, movies, television. I don't care. Like if it's interesting enough, like if that story is interesting enough, I want to know what happens with it.
Right.
I want to know if that world that the story's happening is interesting. Then I want to know. Like one movie that jumps to my mind is like that Full-Time Killers movie. Right. So it's a really weird movie. It's like I think it's Chinese action movie. It's the one I rented this movie a long time ago with Corey on accident, and then we watched it in the basement. It's like the Assassins movie, right? They're like assassins, and then there's like, but the movie's completely ridiculous. But like, there's something about it that I'm just like, this is so crazy.
Is that the movie where like if these two guys are assassins and at the tail end they play that game, Better Assassin?
Well, yeah, no, they play a real life game of Metal Slug in the warehouse. Yeah. They try to kill each other. Yeah. That it's so ridiculous. But like that whole ridiculous premise is taking place in like this very real city. Right? Like everything that happens in the movie is like just believable enough. Like it's over the top and ridiculous, but like all the environment is really cool. All the stuff is really interesting. And like the premise is kind of weird, but for some reason I just really like that movie. And there again, I think some of it too are like there are also some like actors where I'm just going to watch them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like, yeah.
There's some of them are, and it's just, I mean, not all of them, because there's always like, we used to play this game in college about like, we would pick an actor and then we would like argue about what their worst movie was. Right? Because everybody's got one, right?
Yeah. Obviously.
There was a rule they had to have made it like X number of movies. Right? I think it was like, I don't remember what it was. Because otherwise you just say James Dean. He only made 3, and they're both really good. And they died. So like he doesn't count. So you can't use him. But we would argue like Tom Hanks's worst movie, right? All this stuff. So a lot of times the actor is also just because of I just enjoy them. Well, I'm thinking about like specifically the first actor that jumped to my mind here was actually Jackie Chan, because I will watch just about anything that he's ever made. So I don't care. Good. Some of it's not good. I'll watch it at least once, and then some of them I will watch like over and over again. Like Operation Condor, I watch a movie like forever. It's not a good movie.
I do like that.
It doesn't make any sense. I just like to watch it. It's just so enjoyable watching him in that movie.
Yeah.
Or I also have a problem because there's about 4 or 5 movies that he made around that same time. In my brain, I can't separate them out from each other. I do that thing again where I forget which part goes with which movie. So like sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, blah, blah. And I'm watching it and like, oh wait, that's a different one. Anyway.
Well, and I don't know. I think part of what you touched on there is how is whenever a movie gets the right casting, when they really nail the actor or the actress for a role.
Oh yeah, that's true.
They tend to embody it and more than that, come to define what that is, or what that character is. Like you couldn't imagine anybody else play that role. And
that's a good point.
Obviously for me, the thing that comes to mind is the Lord of the Rings.
It's true.
Go ahead. Try and pick anybody else in any one of the main character roles. You will fail, right?
True. Especially Gandalf.
Yeah.
Right? Not recasting Gandalf, are you?
Nope. You got that one, right? And, but even and I mean some of the larger ones like Harry or other ones like Harry Potter or whatever, but even things like Pulp Fiction or Princess Bride, like
that's true.
like,
yeah,
they become like they so embody who that character is that you enjoy watching them as that person.
Yeah, that's true. Even though, like,
right.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna touch on Pulp Fiction for a minute because that's definitely a movie where, like, my memories and my nostalgia about watching that movie with my friends when I was little, or like not little, obviously, like younger than I am now.
Brandon's 7 watching Pulp.
Yeah, no. First of all, that movie wasn't out when I was 7. I don't think. Anyway, I don't remember when it came out. It might have been. That's beside the point. Yeah, when I was younger watching it, like that, like I have these like memories of that movie, and then there was one point where I watched it again a couple years ago, and I was like, "Yeah, this movie really doesn't make any sense, does it?" But like all the pieces are so good that you kind of like didn't remember that part,
right? Yeah,
which is kind of what makes it interesting, right? Like there's certain movies like that are like that. That even though like that it's all backwards, like. I personally really like the movie Memento.
Yeah.
The movie again. After you watch a movie once, some people are gonna be like, "Yeah, I don't want to watch that again." But like, I just like it because I like how strange it is. Anyway, sorry, Aaron. What were you gonna say?
So two things. One, if we ever needed like a challenge to have on the podcast,
which we always do,
Yeah. I have always wanted to. There's a YouTube show that I watch called Movie Fights, and there's a segment that they do where it says, "All right, take a movie, or like act like you're writing a movie or directing a movie. You have to come up with like just like a basic script, and then you have to pick like 5 actors and list like why you would pick them." So I've always wanted to like kind of be like, oh hey, I got this kid that runs that's a sewer rat, and it's played by John Goodman, and like something random like that. So I've always wanted to do that. And number 2, Colin kind of said something that triggered it, and I forgot what he said. But do you think at years down the road, whenever we are old and gray or gone, if people will remake some of the movies that we deem classic now? Like, I was thinking about...
they'll probably do it in 5 years, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Well, so like...
Lord of the Rings is 20 years old now.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. Also, in watching both Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter recently, Lord of the Rings holds up much better visually than Harry Potter does.
That first one... Yeah, first
I was watching it the other day going, oh, man.
Yeah.
But like, do you ever think that years down the road, someone is going to make like new Jurassic Park? Like, I'm talking like a remake of the first, not these copy ones, or someone will go back and be like, I want to make a new Lord of the Rings.
No,
there's some films that I see today that are like, oh well, someone will remake that down the road. But there's certain films that I have a list for that are like, that will never be remade. This movie will stay the same, for X amount of years. Do you ever think? I have a lot of free time sometimes.
I had this week as well.
Will this movie ever be? Because like sometimes, what was it? It was like I forgot what it was, but it was some movie that I watched on Netflix that was deemed like a classic. But like, would that movie ever be remade like again? And so,
yeah,
I just had that thought of, will this be made again? Like, will someone like 50 years from now be like, you know what I want to do? I want to make, the new, a new Rescue Rangers or whatever. I don't
know. No more Rescue.
But that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Because they have done in some cases, right? But I wasn't always familiar enough with the original material to care. So I think at some point, some of them might get remade.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the problem is, in my opinion, how people think about remaking movies.
Yeah.
Right? Because the general attitude seems to be people really like this movie, so we should remake it so they can watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But like, I don't want to watch somebody else play and singing in the rain. Right? I don't want to watch that. I don't need another one of those movies. I don't want to watch another remake of like Seven Samurai. Right? That movie needs to stay exactly how it is, right? But I think what might benefit people is to like look at some of the movies that they made and then like did badly. They're like, how can we make this movie better? I think that's a question I think about. What movies should be remade that no one's thinking about remaking because they like had potential and then they were like terrible and like, nobody watched them.
Right. Like, I don't think anybody's going to go, man.
I mean, they might. Who knows? Somebody might be like, yo, I'm going to remake Streetcar Named Desire.
Or Goodfellas, right?
Like, or Goodfellas.
Oh God,
man! I was just watching the movie today. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm gonna remake, Rear Window.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're not.
Man,
get out of here.
Only go back and redo The Godfather. I think we could really nail it this time, right? But I mean, I don't know because that's an interesting question that Aaron poses because in 100 years, are they going to want to watch that version of The Godfather? Right.
I don't know. Because, they do sort of, and I think the ones that get remade a lot now they remake the stories. They don't generally do shot for shot remakes.
Yeah.
Generally. There are some exceptions. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I know there are some. But the story is one thing, but trying to make an exact copy of Jurassic Park would be a really weird thing to do, I think. What you really need to do is remake a movie that wasn't good or that was kind of good but had a pretty good story, just mess it up the first time. You need to remake those movies.
Because there's movies I know some of the newer movies that were animes that came out and they try to put in a live action
Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell, that's another one. I think years down the road, that was such a good anime, and years from now, what potential could technology hold that could actually make it good and not have someone that's that would fit the part.
Well, yeah, that goes with what I was saying. That movie has potential to be better, so let's remake that one. Let's not remake, Apollo 13. Don't remake that one for the. So, please don't remake Apollo 13.
So you're right. There are difference. I like that difference of there's the potential, then there's the retelling the story, and nobody has proven the latter better than Disney, right? Retelling fairy tales. And
it's true. I was thinking about Beauty and the Beast and how much I don't like that movie.
Yeah. Right. Or
I'm sorry, Emma Watson. Love you very much, but
so I
do not like.
I was reaching further back of just the original Cinderella is a retelling of this old fairy tale, of this old story, or that they've adapted, or Sleeping Beauty, right? That this is a Disney adaptation of these stories that they have since ruined by making into modern day atrocities. Because they,
I will say there is a series that I watch on YouTube that talks about messed up origins, and when you find out the actual history behind some of those originals fairy tales, they're absolutely terrifying.
Oh yeah,
I like all the Brothers Grimm, the original fairy tales are crazy.
Yeah.
You're like, what? These are not children at all.
Yeah, like gets murdered.
Yeah.
You're like,
oh,
what the heck?
No.
What's happening? Why? But yeah, that's true. I mean, they did fix this. They did just retell the story. So that is, I mean, that's good because there are some stories that eventually need updated or just retold again. Right. Because they're good. Like, the story of Sleeping Beauty is like, it is a classic tale. Right. Now, do I need a shot for shot remake of Sleeping Beauty? No, I don't. You can like
want one?
do something. I don't know. I'm probably gonna get one, but like I don't want it Disney. But
some people in Disney would say it is a tale of old time.
That's true. They got to keep their copyrights somehow, right? That's how that's a whole different thing. Anyway,
Disney, if you want to sponsor us, we're not going to complain.
Yeah, not happening. Anyway,
no, that.
But yeah, that keeping that story in your mind of like, oh, this is like a important like cultural thing, right? But then like adapting it in a way that's like slightly more interesting would be good for like a different audience, right? That way you have the story again. And I think that's fine. I don't generally have a problem with that. Like, oh, it's more of this. It might be different. I might not like it as well, but that's on me because I probably like the old one, right? But somebody new is going to like that one. And then the same story will have in common. And that's good, I think. I think that's important. But I don't want a shot-for-shot remake of Jurassic Park with like something else.
No, don't.
That would be terrible.
Let's all agree that would be awful.
That would be so bad.
There's movies like that what you said, Brandon, was perfect of a retelling of an old tale in a newer version. I mean, it would be a very interesting concept to see, and I would love to see what could be made out of certain things. Yeah, it's got to be the right movie, and it's got to be done right. But there's a lot of factors that play into that. But it was just one of those things where I was watching. I think I was watching Fellowship of the Ring like last week. I was just sitting there watching, and I was like, would this get remade one day? When Peter Jackson's long gone.
Technically, Peter Jackson remade that
from the older stuff, and from the book.
No, from that weird '70s animated one.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, who's the guy that did that? Can't remember his name.
So it's talking about terrifying cartoon. That's one.
Also, yes, but technically,
and then there was a live. Then there was not live action, but then there was another series of Lord of the Rings that had, I think, John Boyd. Heck, what was it?
What?
But there's a version where they actually had live actors and they drew over them. I will find this, and you all will be like, "What? Aaron, what are you talking about?"
I'm afraid.
Is his name John Boyd? Oh, his name's John.
Don't know. I have no idea what's happening right now.
That's not.
I just can't.
That is not John Boyd. Sorry, keep talking. I'm going to mute myself.
I just can't think of who drew that original Lord of the Rings thing. Animated.
I don't.
Who is that? 1978 film. About Ralph Bakshi. There we go. That's who. There we go. That's the director, Ralph Bakshi. He's the guy that did a lot of those, like that style of animation. So, all right, okay, there we go. Sure. Nailed it.
Back from the part where the episode where we Google.
Yes, everyone's favorite part: live Googling. Sorry, audience. I'm trying to get better at commentating while typing. Sometimes I accidentally type the things I was saying. That's a movie Aaron's thinking about, though, because that's like John Hurt, maybe?
John Hurt. Hey, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So we're thinking about the same one, just from a weirdly different spot.
But there's also a different one that's more like musically.
Is there?
But, yeah, because there's that one.
Oh, I'm looking at it right. Oh, what on earth is this? Oh my goodness! I didn't know this
that's the terrifying one. Yeah, you're welcome. That's the one because there's John Hurt. He played.
What's going on here?
Not Boromir.
Some say Aragorn.
He played Aragorn. There we go. He played him, and yeah, he had to dress up, and they literally just like drew over him.
It's very strange.
And that's how his character came to be.
So yeah, but you could say that Peter Jackson remade that.
Yeah, but that one, like when I said Lord of the Rings, what did your mind first go to?
That's true. Peter J.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Peter.
My little buddy PDJ, right?
And so, but like,
that what you call him?
Would someone?
That's what I call him whenever I see him in those cameos. I always go, PDJ, what's up? Like, it's like,
and so like things like that of like, would someone remake that one?
Sorry, Mr. Jackson, I'm a big fan. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Apologize.
Huge fan.
Put me in your next movie. But yeah, and like things like that.
Yeah, I'll be an extra like Stephen Colbert. I'll just be there. It'd be cool.
Be there.
No, that's a good point though. Are there? I don't know. I can't think of any other movies that are like recent like that, and I'm going to call that recent, even though Colin called us out and been like, "That movie's 20 years old." Thanks, Colin.
I have to remember.
Thanks for ruining the fun.
That.
I don't like that particular
not an attack against you.
I think it might be.
Reminding myself.
But like, I don't know if there's another movie that I would consider like. I mean, I guess the only other one that I would think about that would be like a modern day like untouchable movie like that would be something like Harry Potter because it's so massive.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, who else are you going to get to play Harry Potter? Right. Who are you going to get to be Hermione, the person that literally solves all the problems in every movie ever?
And the thing I was talking about with the movie fight series is that they sometimes take movies like, all right, if you had a chance to remake any movie, what would it be and who would you cast instead? And someone said something like the newer or just a different version of like RoboCop. They would have like, I don't know.
I already messed up RoboCop once. I don't want to.
Yeah, but like remaking something, and they would have to like pick an actor that's like pop, relevant today, and then explain like why.
Right.
And so like something like that, I would be really cool. Like, all right, or they do like a series called like Fix a Movie. Like, all right, you're now in charge of fixing, the Justice League or the DC universe. Well, like, where would you start?
From scratch.
But the dark cut, was it Zack Snyder's cut supposed to come out? So.
Oh yeah, I can't be bothered. That movie was already too long.
Yeah,
and I mean, the movie's already too long, and so like I don't want to watch a longer version of that movie.
This is again, you're talking to the person that watched Gettysburg. And
that's true. On purpose.
I can probably watch that again. Yeah,
like voluntarily watching Gettysburg. Like, oh man, this movie's great. I love it so much.
Yeah, and so yeah, I could watch the movie fine, but I'm excited because I'm a DC fan. Marvel's fantastic, and I love what it's brought. I just want to see Batman. That's all I want. Green Lantern, please. Like, just for nothing else, do this for me, DCU. Like, that's all. I don't care. Just please. That's all I want.
You're so passionate about this whole.
DCU is not good. Yes, I know that. I just want a good movie. I just want one. Wonder Woman was great, but it wasn't consistent. I'm fine.
Don't think you're fine. Don't sound very fine to me.
I'm fine. This is fine. But yeah, that's another thing I'm excited for. And I will not watch any what's it called? Things on YouTube. I will not watch anything
like spoiler
about
things.
it. Yeah, I just want to sit there and see what I can find. And if it's good, I'll be happy. If not, I will be happy, but I will cry at night. So. This is a big deal for me.
I'll just cry myself to sleep with my Batman pillow.
Just wanted to see Batman fight. That's all I wanted.
You saw that. That was indifferent. That was called Batman vs. Superman.
Yeah, they
had the whole movie.
And actually, I actually did like that. But
I did not think it was nearly as offensive as the internet said. But again, the internet is a very angry place. They just likes to yell at things.
Just offended. I don't know.
It's true. They all know better.
All they are.
So
I'll be happy one day with DCU. Just
not today.
When you watch Batman the animated series again, and you go, oh yes,
good.
DCU has made better animated movies than an actual live action film
because they can get Kevin Conroy to play Batman.
That is true. And Mark Hamill can play the Joker anytime.
That is double true.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, Rocksteady can make a better Batman universe. My legitimate favorite Batman thing ever is those Batman Arkham games. Those are so good.
Oh, I do like those.
Oh man, I didn't like Arkham Knights much. I mean, it was fine, but again, that's Arkham City was the one I liked, and then Arkham Asylum was really good too.
Sorry, Colin, we got off topic page, but just give me DCU movie. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I want. Don't care. Don't care. Just want my comic game.
Aaron's gonna have to play Lego Batman to be pacified. That's what he's gonna say.
Well,
you can't be that.
Well, we'll let you go do that, Aaron, and we'll.
Damn.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Oh, goodness. Well, okay. Well, love you guys.
Love you too.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.